not right. Governor Malloy, we are now facing the results of this inequity. No budget process should pit the needs of our students against overburdening taxpayers. No budget process should force us to choose between losing teachers and reducing hours at the public library. In no circumstances should this be conceivable. Yet that is exactly where we are in Ansonia today, and where we will remain without fair and equitable funding from Hartford. Now, the governor and I may disagree on a few issues, but when it comes to fair funding for Connecticut schools, we are on the same page. I commend Governor Malloy for his proposal to finally restore fair funding to our school district for the 2018-2019 state budget. Governor Malloy, thank you for standing up for our students, our taxpayers, and our community. For a city like Ansonia, fair funding isn't a luxury. It is an absolute necessity. I am glad you understand that. It is now our duty to make sure every member of our State House and Senate understands what fair funding means for Ansonia and similar towns, and to fight until fair funding is a reality. I want to recognize other municipal leaders that are here with us today, along with Ansonia, Linda Gentile. I'd like to introduce her, Representative Gentile, and I want to thank her for her help she has given to our hometown.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mayor Cassetti. I want to thank the mayor for having this very important press conference here in my hometown of Ansonia. You know, like the mayor, the governor and I have maybe had some spirited debates, and that's what democracy is all about, quite frankly, here in Ansonia and in our nation. But, you know, I have to explain a little bit about the budget process. You know, the governor has the big task of putting his budget out before the legislature in early February. Now, much can change between now and June, but I want to commend the governor for his starting point, because, like the mayor said, Ansonia has been shortchanged for a long time. The governor recognizes that, and I thank him for that. Now, you'll hear that you're pitting some wealthier communities against some of the poorer communities. Well, quite frankly, I have a little bit of difficulty feeling sorry for those people, because we have been shortchanged for so long, and we're trying to even the scales. Now, yes, we've tipped the scales the other way, and I'm not sure that that is the correct thing to do, but I know it's a great starting point, and what we want to do, what we all want to do, is eventually get to a point where we're at this here, so it's equal. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce Governor Malloy. Governor Malloy?
Thank you. Thank you very much. This is not my first visit to Ansonia by any stretch of the imagination. I've been here on a number of occasions, including having visited some of the schools in Ansonia. And what I'm attempting to do in the state of Connecticut is not simply for Ansonia, but it is to allow communities that share a larger portion of our burden and help those communities meet their fiscal demands. In my speech presenting first the state of the state and then ultimately the budget on February 8th, I indicated that ultimately the distribution of assets, state assets, should be based on something. And here we are in Ansonia, where the grand list per capita is less than $80,000. That means that per person you have an $80,000 base to raise the revenue necessary to run your schools, your police department, your other social services. We have communities where that number is well over $200,000 per individual. And that's one of the measurements that we have to be looking at on an ongoing basis. Additionally, the mill rate. How many dollars per 1,000 do you need to, in tax value, do you need to tax to pay for those services? And then ultimately, when I came to the conclusion, and that wasn't simply this year, I've been working on this for a long time, a reference was made to the Alliance District. Early on in this administration, we established a system of educational improvement that recognized that the lion's share of new tax dollars going to support education needed to go to those Alliance districts. That's in part the same framework that we're working with now. Under the proposal that we have, Ansonia would receive millions of additional dollars in support not just of education but general services. I'll go back to that address I gave. Communities, hard-working, middle-class communities have frequently had to pit services against education or education against services, and in some cases, quite frankly, both sides have lost in that discussion. So this is an attempt to recognize that if we're going to spend state dollars in communities, if we're going to continue the process of improving education, and by the way, we have the highest graduation rates in our state's history after 5 years of increasing graduation, which followed 5 years of declining graduation. We're making progress in this regard, so that in this budget, this biennium budget, we take a giant step forward in equalizing what is this tax burden, this property tax burden that falls on so many communities. There are, about 30 communities that need this assistance. Those 30 communities out of 169 represent 46.1% of our population, represent the lion's share, or the largest share of our student population, and overwhelmingly represent pockets of poverty in our state. These things are tied together. We need to help move communities forward, and that's what's included in this proposal. Now, I've looked at some of the news about Ansonia, and this great library is one of the things that the mayor has said that might have to suffer as a result of budgetary constraints if the budget that I've asked for does not move forward. Quite frankly, I'm a big supporter of libraries, and I think that they are important institutions in our community, and along with the public education system are one of the real strengths of our democracy and one of the protectors of our democracy. I don't want to see poorer towns or middle-class towns have to lose the city services that they're currently enjoying. So I want to be very clear that this is about fairness. This is about reimbursing communities like this one in 6.6 square miles, and next to Derby, which is about 5.2 square miles. These are small communities asked to do a lot, and quite frankly, the state needs to do more to be of assistance to those communities, and that's what's contained in this budget. Now, budgets are tough. We live in a different America where growth has been slower than at any time in our lives as I look at this crowd. This is a recovery from the Great Recession is unlike any other post-World War II recovery that we've seen. But the time has come for us to look at how we spend our money in the state and make sure that we are well educating our communities, that we are well serving our communities, that we step in and play a role in making sure that that can be accomplished by those communities, and we hold those communities accountable for doing just that. All of that is in the budget that I have before the legislature. The representative has indicated, yeah, I have to go first and put it on the table on February 8th. Well, the next big date probably is around April 27th when we'll see some committee reports. But we've got to get our job done. We need to get it done on time. We need to have a budget. We need Ansonia to be able to rely on that budget. We need to move our state forward, and we can do that together. Thank you very much.
Before you leave, I'm sorry, I neglected, and it was an oversight. My colleague, Senator Logan, would you like to say a few words, please?
No, thank you for that.
My fault, I'm so sorry.
Thank you, I appreciate that. But I want to thank everyone for coming out here today. Thank Governor Malloy for taking the time to be here, and thank Mayor Cassetti and his staff for pulling this together. We all share Mayor Cassetti's passion for making certain that Ansonia gets treated equitably by the state in the area of public education funding. As state senator, I want to make sure that all the towns that I represent are treated fairly, including Ansonia, including Derby. Our challenges are significant. The governor has made his budget proposal. He and his staff spent many long hours crafting it. Legislative committees worked to adjust that proposal that has begun. Hearings and meetings are taking place every day in Hartford. Those discussions often run all day and into the evening. I will work with Democrat and Republican lawmakers at the state capitol to make the necessary adjustments to protect that school funding and protect taxpayers in the process. I have a lot of respect for my colleague, Rep. Linda Gentile. Even though we work on different sides of the political aisle, we will work together on behalf of Ansonia and Derby's best interest. This is a team effort. In the weeks and months ahead, I will work closely with Rep. Gentile, Mayor Cassetti, and local leaders throughout our region to make sure that the state budget that eventually passes is sensible, predictable, reasonable, and fair. Our common goal must be to pass policies which encourage people and jobs to come to Connecticut and grow here. And again, I thank Governor Malloy, and I look forward to working with you.